Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Welcome, Hypno Lions Roar. I am Wayne Walker, the host, creator, financial backer, and I also do all the cleaning around here. Hope everyone is well today. Got a subject matter that has come up a little bit or a few times with some clients this past 3 weeks or so, and I wanted to share it with you. And it's the subject matter is an issue of control. So control. It's an interesting word. You say that word control, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. But primarily, a lot of times we'll get into it and it's actually an issue of controlling another person. And you cannot control another person. The only person that you can control, that you have any control over, is yourself. So control over anybody outside of yourself, whether it be yourself or your actions outside of that, is an illusion. So you can look at control as outside of yourself as an illusion. Now, let me clarify a couple of things before we move on. You can manage people just like a manager at a company. You can manage them. You can entice them. You can bribe them into certain directions and areas, but you cannot control them. No more than you can control your own kids or your children. You can manage them, and you manage them through, depending on the age that they are, you manage them through a variety of different means, whether you're going to uh, manage them and get them to do what you need them to do by fear of physical punishment, fear of taking away something that they hold of value. Uh, so you can manage them in that way. Not the best way to manage people, but sometimes it, it is a way that things need to be done with people, especially children. Uh, but let's go back to control of yourself. There are so many times that people, they don't reflect on themselves and they react to situations, to people, to words, actions, and the reaction is off the charts. And it can be positive or negative. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's a reaction. And if you allow your reaction to affect how you act, how you respond, your feelings, your emotions, if you do that, then what you are doing is you're giving control to the other person. And you probably don't even realize that you're doing that. Or you maybe don't even realize that you can look at it that way. So if one of your children or your spouse say do something that you don't like, whatever, and you react in such a way that it is emotional, it gets you pissed off, it gets you angry, then they control you by what they did. And you've given that control over freely. You think that your action is going to, or your reaction is going to allow you to get your way. And you might get it for a period of time, but then you just have to go back and have that whole event over again because it's going to come around. But if you learn to self-reflect on yourself and uh, really look at yourself of not allowing people or circumstance to flip you or get you sideways, as we say, as I say when I was as growing up, get you sideways, then you'll always be in control of yourself, and nobody will be able to have control of you. And that in of itself is a tremendous amount of power. But you have to be one to self-reflect. Now, let's say you self-reflect, and because of your history of what you've grown up in and which is a part of who you are, there may be programming in your subconscious mind that prevents you from doing that. At which time you need to really look and say, okay, how do I change the programming? Because you're not going to be able to accomplish it by doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. You have to approach yourself differently. Now, you can approach it like changing a habit or taking control of a habit, changing it, modifying it, but that takes a lot of emotional strength. It takes a lot of focused willpower, and most people are not going to succeed that way because willpower, depending on the individual and depending on the circumstance, is only designed to operate for a short period of time. That means it gets you through something. If you have to sustain it for a period of hours or days and even going into weeks, you may as well hang it up. It's not going to, you're going to fail. And I would lay money on that. And I don't bet on anything that I don't view as a sure thing. So how do you make those changes? Well, through people like me as a hypnotist. See, a lot of people have this idea of what hypnosis is and what it is not, and they think it's woohoo and all this other stuff. And that is so far from the truth. Hypnosis is having to do with changing the 6 inches up between your ears and changing that programming, releasing the programming that no longer serves you, and adopting new programming that allows you to, what's the word? Allows you to move in the direction that you want to move in. It allows you to be the person that you want to be. I've got to turn this damn thing off. So, but you have to self-reflect. And once you self-reflect, then you have to agree that these changes need to be made. And sometimes you won't even know what the changes are until you actually meet with a person like me. And even then, you may not be sitting in front of the right person like me. But everything can be changed. Everything can be, you can grow past anything. Because see, I'm only really, my relationship with a client is to lead them into hypnosis. I'm the moderator. I am the conductor to a person's instrument. I don't control, I don't have control of their instrument, don't want control of their instrument. I'm just going to lead them or moderate through the process to lead them into that state of hypnosis. And then through my guidance, and many times not even knowing the issues, we can make changes. But the ultimate person that's going to be in charge of that is you. So really, hypnosis in of itself is the ultimate control that you have over yourself, because you have to allow it to happen. As soon as you say, I'm not going to allow this to happen, then there's nothing that me or any other hypnotist is going to be able to do with you, do anything with you, for the most part. For the most part. So that word control gets a lot of people in trouble. It causes issues for people And that's why a lot of times we become our own worst enemy, because we're spending so much effort and emotional work into trying to control out those things outside of us for which we have no control. So why even try? Put it in perspective and say, I control me. Now I can manage that. And sometimes you have to let things marinate for a little bit, leave it alone, watch, listen. And more times than not, things will tend to work out themselves. But what it also does, it allows you to settle down and reflect on circumstance, on yourself, and get past. It's like what does the Bible say? It says, slow to anger, time. Take time. Don't don't jump right in and react to something. It's like your kids. They do things sometimes at all ages that get us. They can get us wound up tight, and we want to react to that. When many times your kids, they're doing stuff, they don't even know why they're doing it. And if they don't understand why they're doing it, whatever it is, then how can you get upset with that? Or how can a person get upset with that? Or your wife does something what she perceives as benign, but it is not what you wanted done or whatever. And again, you go sideways, allowing that circumstance to control you. See how these things kind of like snowball, but it always comes back to you, to me individually. The saying goes is that if you point a finger at someone, look at your hand, because you've always got three of them pointing back at you. The good Lord gave you 2 ears and one mouth. Means you do twice as much listening as you do talking. Probably a good rule to adopt. But now that I brought up rules, let's talk about rules for a second. And I've covered rules before in the past. You can go through and find that episode of that podcast and review it. But you need to set up rules for yourself of how you are going to conduct you, and put some thought into it. Because if you really sat down and looked at it and thought about it, would you write out a rule for yourself that says, okay, if this person says this to me, then I'm going to get pissed? Logically, consciously, you would not do that. Because when you say it, you hear it. And when you hear it, it drops down into to here, and then it drops down into your gut. And then there you go. But when you say that and you hear yourself say that, it goes, no, I don't do that. I'm not giving them the satisfaction. Well, that's control. If you're not giving somebody the satisfaction, then that is control. Now, if you're doing things in a passive aggressive way, and you're doing it with the intention of pissing the other person off, well, then one, you're putting way too much thought into it. Two, you're manipulating the individual. And three, you're causing a lot of issues, becoming your own worst enemy than you need to have. Pretty simple. A lot of people don't like hearing those things because they are comfortable to where they're at, because they don't want to change, which is sad. I mean, we probably all know a person in our family or a close friend that they've just been themselves for the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. They're consistent at being miserable. There's no growth. There's no movement forward. They typically live in the past. They're always looking behind them to the past. Our necks are really designed to look left and right, or my other left, my other right. It's not designed to look in the back. You physically really have to want to look behind you to turn and look behind you. Now, there's times that you may want to do that, but more times than not, look forward, because that's where you have control of. Past, you have no control. You can't change it. You can hop up and down and scream about it and whine about it and say, if only, and I wish I did, and if not, and all that, but it's past is still the past. You go forward, you grow. But be better tomorrow than you are today. Be better today than you were yesterday. And if you adopt that way of thinking, of looking at yourself, then you can't help but grow. You'll always grow. So your perception is your reality of things. My perception is my reality. And maybe our perceptions about the same thing being reality can be, both can be right to an extent, but sometimes we push that wet noodle so we maintain our view as being right, not addressing. And some people, they just don't want to be told that they're wrong, or that they're not thinking right, or they're not looking at something right. Because life is black and white. And people will argue with me about that. But again, I believe I did an episode on that as well. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. If I didn't, I should. But life is black and white. Now, is there gray area in life? Yeah, there's gray area. And that gray area is where the two, black and white, come together. That little strip right down in between them where they touch, that's gray. Now, the gray area is for you to educate yourself, make a determination, investigate. But once you make a decision of what is or is not, you're going to become black and white on that issue. But for some reason, people just, they don't want to be black and white. They don't want to make choices or make a decision or judge, when they probably are the people that judge the most. Again, I go back to the Bible, as the Bible says be ye hot or be ye cold. But if ye are lukewarm, I will spew you, or actually vomit you from my mouth. Or growing up, you may have had a grandfather or grandmother tell you, it's poop or get off the pot. Don't straddle the fence. Make a decision. Fish or cut bait. Make a decision. So I take you back to making a decision about yourself, about how you're going to conduct yourself and how you're going to look at yourself, and use this information to have a good amount of growth, positive growth. Challenge yourself to be better today than you were yesterday. Demand of yourself that you're going to be better tomorrow than you are today, whatever that may be. And it doesn't have to be huge changes. It's incremental changes. It's very, very small changes at a time. Every day you're working on something. Ben Franklin, I read his autobiography years ago, and one of the things that he did is he had, uh, I think it was 10 or 13 things, words that he would focus on, and he worked on one each day. And once he went through his list, he'd start it over again. And for the life of me, I can't remember what those are, but maybe I'll cover that at a later date. But that takes a lot of self-discipline to go through and really look at yourself and where your weaknesses are and say, I need to work on these. I need to get stronger in this. One of my clients came to me, and when I do sessions with people prior to the next session, they get what is called a weekly feedback form. And they have to fill that out the day before their session, the day before their next session. And they have to send it to me because that gives me an idea of where I need to work with them on based on what their what their interpretation is, and then what I feel that what they need. But many times they get confused, or sometimes they can become confused as to what hypnosis does and what it doesn't do. But this person was wanting more tenacity and to be more focused. And really that's an easy thing to accomplish with the subconscious mind. But what is hard about it is for the conscious mind, where you and I are talking right now. You're hopefully actively listening to what I'm saying here. I'm focused on what I'm saying to you. That's the conscious world. Okay. I can't do something else and do this because, the whole uh, thing about multitasking is a bunch of nonsense. You cannot multitask. You can jump from one thing to the other, and usually not very effectively. But anyway, so the conscious mind can override what the subconscious mind is trying to do for you because it's bringing you those instructions. Okay, we're going to do this and this, and you're going, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. And you can override it. And that where is the issue with some people. Now, there's things that I can do to try to limit that from happening. And I'll usually figure it out that person has a propensity to do that. Because I'll typically figure everything out, and no one has to tell me anything. But once your subconscious mind has those instructions, it will make it easier for you to move forward by simply making the decision, saying, I'm not doing that. So there's a term that I use that my wife has adopted it now, is that you can't push a wet noodle. You can lead it all over the table, but you can't push it. It just bunches up on you. And there are times that we get to a point, I get to a point that I'm working on something, I'm dealing with people on this, whatever, and it gets to a point to say, okay, I'm just pushing a wet noodle here. I need to back off. Leave it alone, let it simmer a little bit. And more times than not, again, you do that, it'll self-correct. You don't have to do anything with it. So, but having the discipline to be able to do that in of itself is hard for some people to do, because they don't want to let go. They don't want to lose. It's like an argument with your spouse or your girlfriend or whatever. rather than just say, you know what, we don't need to have this conversation right now. It's going to go in the direction that neither one of us want to do. And then one of you just keeps picking and picking and picking and picking. You can't let it go because you want to be heard. You want to control the narrative. You want to win, whatever it is. And you do things to solicit a reaction from the other person. And again, it may be, you know, a passive aggressive thing, which we all can get into at times. But being able just to walk away for a little bit, let that, just let that sleeping dog sleep for a little bit, and then come back and revisit. And many times when you do that, you're going to have a fresh perspective on things. And many more times when you do that, you're going to find that you don't even have to deal with it because it's kind of worked itself out anyway. And then off you go, which is a good thing. So allowing yourself that luxury to be patient. And that's the hard thing for some people to do, patience. Maybe that could be a word that you, or something about yourself that you can work on tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be more patient. I want to make a conscious effort to be patient. I'm going to do that by doing these things. And you maybe set the tone the night before and figure it out. Some people will say, well, you know, that's a lot of effort to do that. And I go, yeah, if you wasn't screwed up to begin with, you wouldn't have to put it in. And usually you're screwed up not because of your own fault, it's because of when you were a kid, certain things, and you got certain programming, and then there you go. But we all have things that we need to focus in ourselves with to be self-reflective. Hence the name of my hypnosis business, Reflective Mind Hypnosis. So, so taking your time, kind of reflect on what control means to you and learn to focus that word on yourself and nobody else. Not your job, not your boss, not your family, not your kids. Control is all about you. You control you, no one else. You do that, and then managing other people becomes fairly easy. So that's all I have to do right now. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Drop me a line, send me an email, look at the show notes down below. Uh, let me know how you enjoyed or didn't enjoy this episode. I hope I bring something of value to the people that take the time and watch this, because that's what I'm trying to do. So anyway, have a good one. Be good. Make good choices. Take control of yourself. Have a blessed day. Bye.